Hey guys! Part 5 of What If Naruto Awakens Sage Mode at a Young Age. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 11, A Monster Enters Wave. I've spent my whole life so sure of what I wanted. I've never met a problem that the monster couldn't handle. It would seem that I've finally met a foe that I can't defeat with brute strength. Love. I'm so lost, and I can't stand it. What do I want? Why can't I just choose? I hate this feeling. I'm supposed to be a monster, so why don't I feel like one? I'm starting to drown in my own indecisiveness. I need to wake up soon, or I'm going to lose myself in this insanity called sanity. Anko was upset. The kunoichi was uncharacteristically frustrated. Having someone out there who could make her feel like a shy academy girl was getting on her nerves. That person being 9 years her junior made it all the more irritating. After the duel 4 weeks ago, the blonde was a constant in her mind. The snake mistress had, like most of the village, been one of his fans while he was still a secret operative in the ANBU. She was never an extreme fangirl of his, but she could appreciate the nation's greatest shinobi to a certain degree. After her first encounter with the boy, however, the Kamikage had become more of a personal savior than a world-renowned hero. The removal of her curse mark had meant more to her than she honestly thought it would. She, of course, knew that she would be extremely grateful to the person if it ever happened, but when it went from dream to reality, when it actually happened, she wanted to do anything and everything she could to properly thank him. Then, somehow, he had heard her innermost desire. Her heart was screaming out to be saved, for a knight in shining armor to rush in and rescue her from her burden. The sickening reminder of her traitorous sensei caused her stomach to curl every single day from the second she woke until she fell asleep. For that to be gone meant the world to her, and all she could do was make a fool out of herself when she tried to thank him. She had no idea how she was going to thank him properly. It was incredibly hard to find something for someone like him, and she was not going to offer him her body. He was definitely cute, and she was attracted to him, but she didn't want him to think she was a slutty whore like a lot of the village did. He was someone important to her, and she didn't want him to look at her with disgusted eyes. That left her right back to square one. How the hell was she supposed to properly thank him? During her little inner crisis, a certain purple-haired woman walked into the very same dango shop that she was at with a certain blonde companion. Anko wasn't paying all that much attention, so when Yugao and Naruto walked up to her table and sat down, she didn't even notice. Naruto smiled at the woman's focus. Yugao was a bit annoyed. Her cough was a little overdramatic. Ahem. It's rude to ignore your peers, Anko-chan. The kunoichi scolded her friend. When Anko made eye contact with Naruto, she immediately choked on the dango in her mouth. After a minute of intense coughing, the snake mistress was very red from embarrassment. What are you guys doing here? She asked a little angrily. Naruto wanted to speak with you, and wherever there's dango, you're always nearby. Anko chuckled at the dango remark but stayed silent. The bringer of hope wanted to speak with her? She definitely didn't want to make a fool out of herself in front of him. What did you want to talk about, soldier boy? She asked playfully, trying to hide her nervousness. She couldn't hide anything from him, though. No one could. He smiled like he was none the wiser, though. It's kind of private, so how about you and I take a walk, and Nei-chan, you wait here. When we're done, we'll come back and have some dango. Yugao narrowed her eyes for a moment before relenting with a sigh. All right, just hurry back. She looked accusingly at Anko. And my Otoro better come back a virgin. Anko gulped and Naruto sighed. He had no intention of having a quickie with Anko. At this rate he'd be a virgin at 30. Yeah, whatever, Naruto said lazily. We'll be back soon. And with that, Naruto led Anko out of the dango shop. Sorry, Yugao is a little overprotective with me. She thinks every female in the world is out to steal my virginity. The blonde explained while they walked side by side. Anko rubbed the back of her neck sheepishly. It's fine, she said a little awkwardly. She's just trying to look out for you. She then gave a confused look. Where are we going, by the way? Naruto smiled. Well, I could take you to my room, since I've seen yours, but if it's okay with you, I'd like to show you my favorite place in the village. The Uzumaki felt the woman's embarrassment, but held back his laughter. Sure, Enko said softly, her eyes looking everywhere but at him. Naruto just nodded to himself and continued walking. 6 minutes later, and they were on top of the Hokage Tower. The view was beautiful, the giant Hokage monument right behind them, acting like guardians, watching over their precious home. I have something I need to tell you. Naruto suddenly spoke out, causing Enko to look at him. It's been bothering me for a long time now. He sighed, and ran his right hand through his blonde hair. I was born with this ability called empathy. He began. With it, I'm able to feel the emotions of those around me to an extreme degree. Enko flushed a deep crimson. Great, now he could feel her emotions? She wanted to speak up and ask him multiple questions, but the apprehensive look on his face made her hold her tongue for now. When I removed your curse mark. Here he even looked away, like he was ashamed of what he had done. I had to sync with you. Enko didn't understand, so he explained. I needed to feel the foreign chakra and substances within your body. To do that, I needed to push my own chakra into your chakra circulatory system. He rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. When I do that, my empathic abilities are at their highest. He sighed. My mind became in sync with yours, and because of that, I saw your soul. You saw my soul? What does that even mean? Enko asked, unsure how to even begin to feel about that. Naruto looked her straight in the eyes. It means I've felt everything you've ever felt. I've seen everything you've ever seen. I've heard and smelled everything you've ever heard and smelled. I momentarily was you, your everything was transferred to me. He gave her a sad look. I invaded your most private thoughts, your deepest secrets, and fears were given to me without your approval. I stole from you. He shook his head. I've killed men for taking what didn't belong to them before. I tried to tell myself that it was for your sake, that I helped you overcome what, here he saw Enko tense, he did to you, but that excuse just doesn't work for me anymore. After Naruto, Yugao and Hate ate dinner last night, he couldn't sleep. He had no desire to dream about Mei again, and that left him with his thoughts. For shinobi, your own head could be a scary place. During his inner rambling, he had come upon something that had been bothering him for a long time, Enko. The woman was so misunderstood, and like certain beings he knew, Naruto wanted to help her. Knowing someone the way he knew Enko obviously made her someone he felt close to. He had seen everything, her happiness, her pain and suffering, everything. How couldn't he feel close to her after that? He always said that once you understood someone completely, you can't help but love them. And because of that one encounter, Naruto had come to love Enko. He understood her probably better than she understood herself, and now that he had her memories, he couldn't help but feel guilty for taking the one thing that no one, not even he, could touch, her thoughts. When Enko stayed silent, he continued. That's why I brought you here, he said softly. I thought you deserved to know something about me that only 4 other people in the whole village, the whole world, know. Enko finally lifted her head, and Naruto smiled. This is where my father proposed to my mother. Enko's face contorted into confusion. She had thought that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was an orphan who didn't know his parents. My parentage is an S-rank secret, but since I have all of your secrets, you deserve to have some of mine. He turned his gaze to the Hokage monument. My father was Namikaze Minato, our Lord 4th Hokage. Enko's eyes widened. She was sure she had heard the greatest secret Konoha had at the moment. My mother was Uzumaki Kushina, and she was the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki before me. The kunoichi wasn't sure if she was allowed to hear all of this information or not, but she was sure as hell not going to ask him to stop. I know that this won't make up for what I've done, but I just wanted you to at least have something of mine too. Enko swallowed hard, trying to make sure her voice wouldn't shake when she spoke. She took a deep breath to calm herself. I'm not angry with you, she whispered, shocking Naruto. Even if you did take my thoughts with you, she looked him straight in the eye, you removed the curse mark from me. I'd gladly give you anything for that. Naruto could feel Anko's heart, and he hated himself even more now, but for a different reason. He felt like he was betraying Mei, because he was positively, without a doubt, falling for the snake mistress. He decided to think about his love interests later and deal with what was right in front of him. With his empathy, he could already tell that she needed, a way to express her sincere gratitude to him, and couldn't find a right way how. He decided to put her mind at ease. Can I tell you something else kind of personal, Anko? He asked innocently. Anko nodded. Okay. You already know that I'm the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, and you now know that the man who sealed him within me was my own father. Anko gave him a sad look. That night, the Kyuubi killed both my parents. I was orphaned not 30 minutes after I was born. He could feel Anko's sad mind. You've probably read my bingo book entry. Anko nodded. So you know I have full control over the bijou. What you don't know, and only 4 others do, is that I don't force the Kyuubi to help me. Anko was confused. Everyone thinks that Uchiha Itachi was my first friend. That little piece of information was news to the kunoichi, shocking news, but she didn't voice it. But he wasn't. He continued. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was my very first friend. Anko stopped breathing for a few seconds. Did she hear him right? Naruto chuckled at her surprise. People believe the bijou to be mindless demons that only crave death and destruction, but they aren't. They're just misunderstood entities, and they're mistreated because they're different. With my empathic abilities, I was able to understand the Kyuubi. He smiled. I don't stand against, or even above the bijou, Anko. I stand beside them. Anko was more than a little shocked at what the boy was saying. Anyways, back to my point, he quickly said. My first friend, the Kyuubi, killed my parents. I was orphaned because of him. I was beaten and shunned by the village because of him. And you want to know something? His smile grew even bigger. He's never apologized, not even once. Anko looked at him incredulously. Why would he smile at something like that? Naruto walked up to Anko, just close enough to outstretch his hand and place it over Anko's heart. Do you know why he's never apologized to me? Why he's never asked for forgiveness from me for practically ruining my life? Anko didn't nod, but Naruto continued anyways. He gave her a small, genuine smile. Because with me, his eyes met hers, words are not needed. Her brown eyes widened, finally understanding where he was going. He must have felt her conflicted mind. He knew she wanted to explain to him how she felt, and he took it upon himself to ease her mind. That was all she could take. It was over, she couldn't deny it anymore. She was in love with him. Anko smiled the most genuine, happy smile she'd given anyone since her sensei before she bent down and placed a soft kiss on the blonde's lips. Naruto kind of saw it coming, his empathy and all, so he was able to kiss her back before it ended. When it did, Anko sighed. You're amazing, you know that? She said, shaking her head. How a 15-year-old had managed to interest her so much was a feat she thought impossible. So I've been told, he replied with a smirk. Oh? And cheeky, too, she added before she took in a deep breath of the cool afternoon air. We should get back before Yugao thinks I've raped you or something. Naruto sighed with a small chuckle. Yeah, he said while making for the stairs. Yeah, we should. Neither of them knew where their feelings were going to take them, but they decided to just see what fate had in store for them. They didn't know if they would even have a relationship beyond friends, but if that's what ended up happening, they'd be okay with it, because they would at least be there for each other. Naruto had made another bond, this one stronger than the others, and if he were honest, much more complicated. What was he doing? What about Mei? That's when it hit him with all the gentleness of a sledgehammer. What if Mei had moved on and forgotten about him? His emotional struggles angered him. They reminded him of his mortality. They reminded him that he wasn't invincible. Seriously? Naruto asked a little excitedly. Right now? He asked again, a smile on his face the entire time. Yeah, Yugao replied as she walked beside her brother towards the Inuzuka compound. Haikuen said it was alright with him, so unless you don't want one. She drawled out, waiting for his response. No! He shouted quickly. Of course I want one. His reaction got a smile from Yugao. Whenever she got her Otoro to act his age, she felt like she completed an S-rank mission. Good. Yugao nodded, a triumphant smirk across her face. I mean, who doesn't like puppies? The two were headed to the Inuzuka compound to pick out a dog for the apartment. Considering that they were all battle-hardened shinobi, two of which were Yanbiyu, they quickly decided that a Niken would be the best choice. The only place in the whole village to find a Niken was with the Inuzuka, and since Yugao was such good friends with Hana, they could pick from the cream of the crop. Yugao had thought that a puppy would take Naruto's mind off Mei, since the Mizukage was obviously on it. After talking it over with Hate, they decided that they could handle a puppy if they all shared the responsibilities. Obviously, Hate was going to be taking care of it the most, what with Yugao being an ANBU captain and Naruto being, well, the bringer of hope. They were the two that were out of the village the most. The blonde could feel his sister's mind and knew that she was trying to get him to stop thinking about Mei. The only problem was that he wasn't just thinking about the auburn-haired beauty. After his talk with Anko, he had been so unsure of himself. He no longer knew what he really wanted. He loved both of them, equally. With Mei, he had been accepted by a complete stranger. She was the very first woman Naruto had any interest in, and after the nights of sleeping in the same bed together, and her giving him his first kiss, and then the second, and third, and fourth, and so on, he had developed genuine feelings for her. She understood him, and didn't fear his power, but thought it was attractive. Then with Anko, he had completely understood the woman. He had seen her entire life laid out in front of him. It was like he had known her his entire life, like he was with her during all of her experiences. He had never been so close to someone in his whole life. He knew what her soul looked like, and he was captivated by it. So here he was, torn between two women. Again, he was forced to realize his humanity. He was forced to realize that the monster couldn't fix every problem. It infuriated him beyond belief. On the bright side, he was getting a puppy. Here we are, Yugo suddenly said, snapping Naruto out of his thoughts. Now, she said happily, let's go get us a pup. Naruto gave her his best attempt at a happy smile, trying to convince her that nothing was bothering him. The two walked in the compound, many of the people greeting Yugao. The purple-haired Kunoichi had been to the compound many times, and the Inuzuka were friendly towards people they knew. They were a very pack-like people, and Yugao was a known friend of their clan head's daughter, making her part of the Chunin's pack. A short walk later had Naruto and Yugao standing in front of the Inuzuka Animal Clinic. It was a fairly small building, just enough to fit everything that was required of veterinarians. Dark gray in color, it had a very professional feel to it. With one last glance, the brother-sister duo made their way into Hana's workplace. The moment they entered, the Inuzuka pounced on them, like she was waiting for them at the door the whole time. Finally! The Inuzuka heiress shouted, her calm and collected look gone, replaced with a brash and playful one. It seemed like whenever she was in the presence of a close friend she became a completely different person. It was like she was awake when one of them was around. That thought made Naruto sigh. He hadn't been awake in such a long time. I was wondering if you'd ever show up. Yugao smiled, patting the woman's head, receiving a grateful hum in return. Sorry, Hana-chan, the ANBU woman said. We stopped to speak with Anko. Naruto-kun needed to discuss something with her. Hana suddenly seemed very embarrassed. Naruto chuckled. She only noticed he was there when Yugao mentioned him. Most people paid so much attention to him it felt like he was royalty, and not just a shinobi. Being ignored was refreshing. Hello, Hana-san, it's nice to finally meet you, Naruto said. Last time, he paused, bringing his hand to his neck. I didn't get the chance to properly meet you. Hana was silent for all but 4 seconds before she became her bubbly self again. Yes, nice to meet you too. Anko tried to hog you all to herself last time. She offered her hand to Naruto. Inuzuka Hana, and you, my cute blonde friend, are the bringer of hope. Naruto smiled and shook the offered hand. Usually he was a little put off when people called him cute. It more than likely meant that a girl liked him or someone was making a crack at his age. It seemed like neither was the case with Hana. She was just being friendly, and Naruto found himself appreciating the woman's attitude. "Yeah, sorry about that," he began. "There was a much-needed conversation to have and Anko, well, you know." He smirked. "She's not the most patient of people." Hana laughed, and Yugao snorted. "You don't even know the half of it, cutie." Naruto chuckled, both at the apparent nickname he had acquired from the woman, and at the fact that he knew exactly how impatient Anko could be. He knew the woman better than anyone else. "Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have a couple of puppies we can look at?" Yugao said. Naruto laughed a little at that. He didn't know who was more excited about getting a dog, him, or his Nei-chan. "Ah, yes," Hana said cheerily. "Follow me, they're in the back." Yugao nodded, walking next to Hana and speaking about something that involved a fight with Hana and her mother, but Naruto paid little attention to the conversation. As he walked slowly behind the two kunoichi, he couldn't help but have this bad feeling, like someone he was close to was in trouble. He sighed. It was times like these that he wished his empathy didn't have such a short range of effect. If he could feel the entire world, he wouldn't have to worry if someone he considered precious to him was in danger. Deciding that there was nothing he could do at the moment, he put his attention on picking out one of the 6 puppies he was now in front of. "Ah, they're all so cute!" Yugao cried in a momentarily uncharacteristic girlish way. The ANBU captain was by no means manly, or even unfeminine, she just barely showed her girly side. Apparently, puppies were her weakness. "But you get to choose, Naruto-kun," she finished with a small, happy smile on her face. Naruto gave each puppy a glance, trying to find the one with that certain look in its eye, the look of intelligence. Puppies 1 and 2 were out of the picture. They looked so dull that Naruto wanted to ask if they were slow in the head. He quickly reconsidered, deciding that both Hana and Yugao would give him that special evil-eyed look that only females could give. Puppies 3 and 4 were a little better, but they just weren't what he was looking for. The 5th puppy looked like he was a Nara, the way he was sprawled out on his back, just staring at the ceiling. It actually made Naruto chuckle. He'd have to tell Shikamaru that he had a twin, and that twin was a pup. That's when he saw her. The 6th puppy was definitely the one that Naruto wanted. The look in her eye told him everything he needed to know. The pup had spirit and an intelligent look in her eye, a look that screamed awareness. If he was going to trust a dog to protect his home, it was going to be one that knew what it was doing. "The last one on the right," he said. "I want that one." His smile faded when he felt Hana's mind. I don't think that's a good idea," Hana replied. "She's somewhat of a wild one. She doesn't listen to anyone, not even the alphas." The Inuzuka sighed. "She hasn't even accepted a name." She shook her head. "You should pick a more obedient pup." Naruto thought it over for a second before he asked, "Do you know why she's so disobedient?" Hana sighed again. Her mother mated with a wild wolf. She began to explain. "Wolves are harder to train, especially if they're wild. I don't know if the pup will ever find a master." Naruto smirked. "May I try something?" he asked. There was nothing the Kamikage couldn't do. Sure, just don't be too disappointed if nothing changes." Yugao gave a short laugh and Hana turned to her. "What?" she asked, a little confused. "You've never met an alpha like Naruto before, Hana," she explained. "He's an alpha among alphas. That puppy will obey Naruto, just like everyone else." Hana highly doubted that. The boy might be the most powerful shinobi in Konoha, but he was overestimating himself. He knew nothing of the minds of dogs, and he would soon understand that. Naruto walked right up to the puppy that he had chosen, and bent down to look it in the eyes. She was on a table, so he didn't have to bend down far. The half-breed had beautiful white fur, and her eyes were a mix of green and yellow. The pup started to growl as Naruto's face got closer, and Hana was seriously worried that she'd claw at it. "Hello?" he greeted her, earning a lower growl. She began to bare her fangs at him, and he chuckled. "You're a wild one, aren't you?" The dog snarled, crouching low like she was about to attack. That's when the blonde's eyes turned gold, his body flooding with natural energy. The second his eyes changed, the puppy began to whimper, already feeling the purity of the world's power within the human. Naruto smiled. I'm your master now, okay? He stated, picking the pup up. When she just let him pick her up, he scratched her head lightly. Good girl, he said happily. Hannah didn't quite believe what she was seeing. Are you serious? She yelled a little indignantly. That mutt hasn't let anyone, not even my mother, even get near her, and you say a few words and she's all of a sudden obedient? Yugo chuckled. I told you, Hannah. There isn't a thing in this world my cute little brother can't do. Naruto rolled his eyes at the cute remark. His sister was always giving him a hard time. What are you going to name her, Naruto-kun? She asked. When he picked her up, he heard the little bell around her neck ring, which gave him an idea. Suzu, he suddenly said. Her name is Suzu. He looked down at his new puppy to see if she liked the name. When she gave a happy bark, he smiled. Bell, huh? Yugao said in concentration. Not very original, but appropriate. She nodded her head. I like it. Suzu it is. They both smiled at each other. She accepted the first name you gave her, too? What the hell are you? Apparently Hannah was still incredibly confused. Naruto just smiled. It's an animalistic thing. He pet Suzu on the head again. So, how much do we owe you? Hannah just shook her head in exasperation. Yugao wasn't kidding when she meant he was capable of anything. What are they doing in Nami no Kuni? Naruto asked the Lord Third. After he took Suzu home and introduced her to Hate, he had spent the rest of the day with Yugao, just talking about whatever came up. Naruto explained how he was getting along with all of the genin and jonin he was assigned to, and how he enjoyed making bonds with people nearer his age. Yugao now knew who every genin he had bonded with was, and a description of each of their personalities. Yugao had smiled the whole time, loving the fact that her brother was making new friends. Then Hate had made dinner, and the three of them ate together, like a family. Naruto loved their family time. A restless night's sleep with dreams not only of Mei, but Anko as well, had Naruto a little tired, and incredibly embarrassed. Some of his dreams were not the kind you could speak out loud about, and some of them had both Anko and Mei in them at the same time. Now he was in the Hokage's office, trying to figure out where his next assignment was. Apparently, they were in Nami no Kuni. I gave them their very first C-rank mission, Hiruzen said. They were all very eager to take on higher-ranked tasks. Naruto nodded in understanding. He had watched Team 10 do plenty of D-rank missions to know that they were not fun. Alright, he sighed, I guess I'll make my way there now, then. He made for the door but was stopped by his commander. Wait, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen held up his hand. There's something I'd like you to handle for me while you're there. Haruno Sakura was having a rough day. It started out fantastic. Team 7 was finally given a C-rank mission after she and her crush Uchiha Sasuke pleaded for one. She and her teammates were ecstatic to finally be rid of the annoyingly boring D ranks, and had started their first C-rank with high hopes. Not an hour in their little trip to the Land of Waves and they were attacked by two crazy Kiri missing nin. When their sensei, Hatake Kakashi, had seemingly been torn to shreds, literally, Sakura had thought she was going to die. Oh, she protected the client, an old drunk of a bridge builder named Tazuna, with her body, but she was still horrified that she was going to be killed. When Sasuke and their other teammate, a strange and incredibly rude pale boy named Sai, had taken the two head-on, she was surprised. They both looked so cool. She might not like Sai at all, what with him calling her ugly all the time, but inner Sakura thought he was cute. She was so relieved when Kakashi-sensei had rushed out of nowhere and apprehended the two Chunin-ranked shinobi. She wanted to yell at her sensei for almost giving her a heart attack, but when he complimented all of them for what they did, even her, she decided to keep her mouth shut. After arriving in Nami no Kuni, they were again attacked, this time by a powerful Jonin Kiri missing nin. Momochi Zabuza was apparently the Kirigakure no Kijin, demon of the hidden mist, and one of the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure. The man had almost cut them down by throwing his sword at them. Luckily, Kakashi-sensei had noticed it in time, or she wouldn't still be breathing. Their sensei had revealed that he had the Sharingan, the dojutsu of Sasuke-kun's clan, and used it to fight the missing nin. After a brief but no less intense death match, Kakashi-sensei had been trapped in Zabuza's Suiro no Jutsu, water prison technique. Sakura was again terrified, but like with the Oni Kyodai demon brothers, she had stood her ground and protected the client. After ignoring Kakashi-sensei's order to retreat, Sasuke and Sai managed to free him with clever usage of Sai's Choju Giga, Super Beast imitation drawing, and Sasuke's Demon Wind Shuriken. Once free, Kakashi-sensei did something with his Sharingan where he predicted everything Zabuza did, and then used it against him. A couple of Suitun Jutsu later and Kakashi was about to deliver the blow that would end the man's life, but he was beat to it by a Kiri Hunter nin. After Kakashi had explained what a Hunter nin was, he had collapsed. Sakura feared for his life, but was relieved when he told them that it was only exhaustion. They carried their incapacitated sensei to Tazuna's house, where his daughter and grandson also lived. His daughter, Tsunami, was a beautiful, dark-haired woman who was incredibly polite. When they arrived, she had tried to help all that she could with comforting their sensei. After 30 minutes, Kakashi-sensei was situated in one of the rooms on the second floor. Sasuke, Sai and herself had taken it upon themselves to explain the situation they were in, and offered to help out as much as they could for housing them. That's how she ended up here, helping Tsunami prepare dinner, while Sasuke-kun and Sai sat at the dinner table, waiting to be useful. Tazuna was drinking as usual on the other side of the Konoha Genin, and Tsunami's son, Inari, was in his room still. They hadn't met the boy yet. Apparently, he was reclusive. "Thank you for the help, Sakura-san. I really appreciate it." Tsunami thanked the pink-haired girl. "It's nice having another girl around." She smiled. "Living with two boys is so tiring at times." Before Sakura could reply, Tazuna shouted, "I'm no boy. I'm a man." His words were slurred, and that made Sakura and Tsunami laugh all the more. Even Sasuke-kun smirked, and Sai gave his creepy fake smile. "As I was saying," Tsunami continued, ignoring her father's claims of manhood, "it's wonderful having you here, even under such," she paused and looked at her father with worried eyes, "troubling times." Sakura shook her head. "No need to thank me, Tsunami-san." She gave the woman a bright smile. "I don't mind at all. I actually enjoy cooking, so it's not a bother." She could see the gratefulness in the woman's eyes. She was thankful for them. Most shinobi would have turned back when they realized that the mission was beyond what they were paid to do. For them to decide to overlook her father's deception and help anyways meant the world to her. "Even if you don't mind, I'm still very thankful." Tsunami really wanted to make sure they understood her gratitude. Sakura smiled and opened her mouth as if to say something but was cut off by a knock at the door. The three shinobi tensed, thinking that it might be another attack. So soon? Sakura thought. They faced Zabuza barely an hour ago. Another attack so soon was a little unexpected. Sai stood and took out his scroll and paintbrush, ready to protect Tazuna. Sakura brought up a kunai, deciding to stay by Tsunami and protect her. Sasuke also took out a kunai and made his way to the door. When someone knocked again, Sasuke slowly opened it and paused. Sakura had thought that it was out of fear, but when she saw his confused face she let herself calm, but only slightly. "Who are you?" Sasuke asked bluntly. He had a frown on his face, an obvious indication that he was upset for being bothered. "Jonin Uzumaki Naruto, here to observe Jonin Hatake Kakashi." A voice called out, causing Sakura to calm even more. "May I come in? I haven't seen Kakashi-senpai in a couple of weeks." The voice was polite and cheery, obviously a friendly. When Sakura saw Sai put his scroll and brush away, she sighed and put her kunai back in her weapons pouch. A blond boy a few years older than the rest of them in a black shirt, his entire right sleeve a burnt orange, a Konoha flak jacket, and black pants walked in, his hands in his pockets and a small smile on his face. So they sent a slightly older runt to help out. Tazuna slurred. "Wonderful. I feel safer already." He deadpanned. After he spoke, he took a giant gulp of his alcohol. Naruto just smiled at the man. "It's nice to meet you all. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, a jonin from Konohagakure. He then looked up at the roof. So senpai's injured? What happened? He directed his question at Sasuke. Kakashi became exhausted when he fought Momochi Zabuza. He's fine, he's just low on chakra. Sasuke answered stoically. He's resting upstairs for now. He should be back to normal in a few days. Naruto smirked and waved his hand in front of him. Ma. He made his way for the stairs. I'll get him up and going right now. Sasuke raised an eyebrow and followed the blonde, wanting to see what he'd do. Chakra exhaustion was a serious thing, and even skilled medical nin couldn't help it. Sakura also followed, she, too, curious about the blonde's claim. Sai seemed not to care all that much and decided to stay downstairs. When the three young shinobi made it to the room Kakashi was in, Naruto immediately smiled. Oh, Kakashi and I, get up already, he said happily as he kneeled down and placed a hand on the silver-haired man's chest. Sasuke and Sakura couldn't see it, but Naruto had flooded Kakashi's system with his own chakra, energizing him completely. Kakashi's only visible eye shot open, and he quickly sat up, already feeling the effects of having such potent chakra in his body. He felt better than ever, like he just had the greatest sleep in his life. When he saw Naruto kneeling beside him with a bright smile on his face, he gave the Uzumaki one of his trademark eye smiles. Ah, Naruto-kun, he began. It's good to see you. It's been a couple of weeks, Ototo. He put his hand on the blonde's shoulder, expressing his gratefulness at receiving his chakra. I know. We've both been so busy lately. He perked up a little. Oh, Yugaone let me get a puppy. He cheered. Her name's Suzu, she's as cool as Pakin, I swear. Kakashi kept his eye smile the whole time, nodding at the boy's words. I don't know about that, Naruto-kun. Pakin is pretty cool, Kakashi replied. Naruto shook his head. Honest. You have to meet her. She's half-wolf, and her eyes are really pretty. Kakashi chuckled, and then stood to his feet. I most definitely want to meet this Suzu. I need to see if she is as amazing as you say she is. He then noticed his genin's strange looks. Ah, that's right. He turned to Naruto again. Naruto, these are two of my cute little students, Haruno Sakura and Uchiha Sasuke. He knew Naruto knew who Sasuke was, but decided to play along with Naruto's wishes to act like he didn't for the time being. Guys, this is my little brother, Uzumaki Naruto. He's been a jonin for. He paused for a second, bringing his hand to his chin in a thinking pose. For weeks now, I think. He looked at Naruto for confirmation. When the blonde nodded, he continued. Yeah, for weeks now. He saw that their faces still looked confused. What is it? How are you better, sensei? I thought you'd be out for at least a day or two. Sakura said what was on both genins' minds. Ah, that? The scarecrow said lazily. Naruto-kun here can transfer chakra. He just gave me some of his just now. That was a bit of an understatement. Naruto had flooded his system with 2 times more than he had before he left Konoha. If he gave him any more, it would have burst his tenketsu. I've never heard of someone being able to do that before, Sasuke muttered. Naruto gave the Uchiha a smile. I'm a little special, Sasuke-san. I can do a lot of things you've never heard of before, Naruto said as he moved to stand by Kakashi. You don't look all that special to me, Sasuke retorted, not even bothering to look the blonde in the face. You only just became a jonin, don't let it go to your head. Naruto chuckled a little at that one. Ma, you shouldn't speak about things you don't know, Sasuke, Kakashi suddenly said. Naruto-kun might have just become a jonin, but that doesn't mean he isn't special. Mai Ototo joined the ranks of jonin after just recently leaving the ANBU. Both Sasuke and Sakura's eyes widened. He was with the Black Ops for 8 years, and has accomplished more than even I have. He gave another eye smile. You're in the presence of the Kamikage. His eye smile then turned into a smirk. Show a little respect. At their shocked expressions and minds, Naruto smiled and shook his head. It's fine, senpai. He held his hand in front of the two. I'd like it if we could just be friends, if that's okay with you. Sakura broke out of her shock-induced stupor and grabbed the blonde's hand. Yeah, nice to meet you too, she said excitedly. I'll gladly be your friend. Naruto smiled at the girl's attitude, and her larger-than-average forehead strengthened his deduction that this was Ino's rival. The way her emotions were towards the Uchiha made it clear. "HN," was all Sasuke said, but Naruto knew his answer. The raven-haired boy was glad to have met him. Sensei," she turned to Naruto. "No offense, Naruto-san," she then turned back to Kakashi. "But why is he here?" she asked, very curious as to why someone so incredibly famous came to their rescue when they hadn't even asked for help. Naruto had thought that Team 7 would know about his assignment by now, but apparently none of the teams conversed. Kakashi started to walk out of the room while he answered. "Naruto Kohai has been assigned a special teaching mission. He has to observe some of the Jonin with genin teams so that he can take on his own squad one day. He's already been attached to 2 others. He turned to Naruto. "That reminds me, how was your time with Guy and Asuma?" Naruto smiled at his captain. "It was educational, but most of all, fun." He chuckled. "Guy is a real piece of work." Kakashi nodded in understanding. "That he is," he said before reaching the bottom of the stairs. "And Asuma?" he asked, wanting to know how the Sarutobi treated his brother. Naruto smiled again. "It took him a couple of days, but he warmed up to me quick enough." "Good," Kakashi replied softly. He really didn't want to lose a friend because said friend treated his Kohai badly. When they reached the kitchen, Tsunami gasped. "Kakashi-san, you shouldn't be up." The silver-haired man patted Naruto on the back. "No worries, Tsunami-san. My Kohai here made it all better." Tsunami looked at the blonde and smiled, if a bit apprehensive. "Well, just take it easy," she said politely. Kakashi nodded. "Of course." Sasuke sat back down and Sakura continued to help the woman with dinner. "At least now we can rest easy." The Copynin sighed. "Even if Zabuza isn't dead yet, it won't matter now since the bringer of hope has joined us." At those words, everyone froze, for several different reasons. "Zabuza's alive?" Sakura shouted. "Bringer of hope?" Tsunami asked in amazement. "That crazy demon's still breathing? Wonderful." Tazuna slurred, taking another gulp from his bottle. This day just kept getting better and better. Naruto chuckled and Kakashi sighed. It looked like he had a lot of explaining to do. Kakashi spent a good half an hour explaining everything that needed to be discussed. Tsunami and Tazuna were starstruck when the Copynin introduced the young blonde as the bringer of hope. Apparently his name even reached the small nations, and even the civilians knew quite a few of his accomplishments. Then Sakura felt sick when she was told that Kakashi thought Zabuza was still alive, even though he had felt no vitals, and his suspicions that the Hunter-nin was actually his accomplice. Sasuke was a little excited to fight the Kuri fake, and couldn't wait to begin the special training their sensei promised them. After they ate dinner, Kakashi had assigned Naruto to accompany Tsunami to the marketplace the next day, just to make sure she wasn't used to bait Tazuna out by getting herself kidnapped. After a short conversation, the 2 Jonin joined the genin in sleeping. When Naruto woke, an hour before anyone else, he had been surprised to see Tsunami was already awake, and after the 2 had some tea that the woman made, they decided to get the shopping done sooner rather than later. So now Naruto and Tsunami walked side by side into town. The woman needed to buy extra ingredients for tonight's dinner, since there were so many guests. "Thank you for accompanying me, Naruto-san," Tsunami said for the 5th time. The woman was the most polite person he'd ever met. "It's not a problem, Tsunami-san. Kakashi-senpai asked me to look out for you, and I've only been here once before, so I kind of wanted to look around and see the sights," Naruto replied. He really had only been to Nami no Kuni once, and it was only to pass through it, so he didn't get a real chance to see the actual villages. He was excited, until he saw how poor and depressing it was. Tsunami had seen his eyes wander around sadly, and decided to let him know why the small fishing village was in such a sorry state. However, before she could begin, there was a cry for help in a nearby shop. When the woman saw Naruto begin to walk towards the noise, she tried to stop him. "No, Naruto-san, it's too dangerous to get involved," she pleaded. It's most likely Gato's men. They force the shop owners to pay a protection tax, and if they don't, well. She didn't have to finish her sentence. The screams for help were enough. I'll be fine, Tsunami-san, Naruto explained. He walked into the shop to find 3 rough-looking thugs, each with a weapon of some kind, huddled around an older-looking man. He cleared his throat. Excuse me, but I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave the man alone. The apparent leader of the ragtag group didn't even turn his face when he spoke. Beat it, brat, this doesn't concern you. After that was said, he started poking his sorry excuse for a sword dangerously close to the man's neck. Before anyone knew exactly what happened, a real sword was shoved into the leader's throat, his crimson blood splattering on the other 2. It concerns me now, the blonde whispered, his voice colder than winter. The 2 living thugs screamed in surprise. What the hell? The one with a dull kunai shouted, bringing the kunai up to slam it in the kid's face. The blonde dropped his tanto and caught the man's arm in his hand, crushing it with his steel-like grip until it snapped like a twig under the pressure. The scum's cries of pain only brought a smile to Naruto's face. Fuck off, creep! The only unhurt thug shouted as he tried to free his wounded friend from the crazy-looking blonde. His sorry attempt at thrusting a rusty pocket knife at his back was evaded with ease. Naruto spun out of the blow, grabbing the wielder by the throat and slammed him into the wall of the shop, cracking it by the force of the collision. Now that we have that settled, Naruto said with a sadistic smile on his face, I'd like you to send your little boss a message. He leaned in close to the man he still had by the throat. He takes his last breaths. His smile grew even wilder. God has passed his judgment on him. He took the man and threw him out of the shop, and has decided to send his harbinger to cleanse Nami no Kuni of his filth. Give this message to Gato. He's been warned. With that said, he turned to the man whose arm was still broken. As for you, he picked his tanto back up, which he kept in a seal tattooed on his left arm, and pointed it at the man. It only takes one to deliver a message. The last thing the black-haired thug saw was the terrifying face of a monster. Gato Company had recently crossed Konoha, in what way Naruto wasn't told, because it didn't matter. The Hokage had ordered him to kill Gato while he was observing Kakashi, which was one of the reasons why he gave them this particular mission. It was a way to get the Kamikage Nami no Kuni, and then he could end the little man's life. Like Yugura, Gato didn't fear Konoha or the Lord Third Hokage, and just like Yugura, he would see the foolishness in his sins. Naruto felt fear behind him, and he sighed. I'm sorry that you had to see that, Tsunami-san. He turned to face the woman who was trying her best to not look totally terrified. I know it's hard not to be afraid, but you have nothing to fear from me. He took a step towards the woman and was relieved that she didn't take a step back. He put his hand on the woman's shoulder. I'm here to protect you and your family, but to do that, I have to become a monster that our enemies will fear. Tsunami just nodded, still scared, but trusting the famous bringer of hope with his word. Now, let's get back to the main reason we came here, he said, motioning for her to continue her shopping. The rest of the trip was made in silence. Sometimes, being a monster meant doing the things that needed to be done, but at the cost of others distancing themselves from you out of fear. And that never felt good. Ever. Chapter 12, Hope. Hope. Only 4 letters, yet such a big word. To some, it's only just that, a word. But to others, to the few who have nothing else, hope is so much more. I have been called a bringer of hope since my time in Mizuno Kuni, and if I were honest, I quite like the name. It was given to me by someone I care a great deal for. A person who brings hope. It does sound rather fancy. Through my many travels around the elemental nations, I have searched for another. I have looked for years for someone else who brought hope to the hopeless. I have finally found that person. He may not be a monster like me, but that's okay. I do monster perfectly fine by myself. And now, +1. Naruto was staring at the third member of Team 7 with something akin to a predatory gaze. The kid was very strange, and his lack of emotions was getting to the blonde. It amused him for a moment, and then it pissed him off. Danzo really underestimated them, and the Uzumaki was finding it irritating. Naruto knew that Sai, if that was his real name, was a member of Root, and the only reason he hadn't ripped the spy's throat out was because there was a little. He couldn't explain it, but there was something deep down inside the genin, something slumbering. Something that felt like emotion, something that felt like anger. Naruto smiled. He could work with anger. The boy was asleep, and the Kamikage wanted to see the real Sai when he was awake. Once Naruto had seen the real him, he would ask his leader to pass judgment on him. If he wished for the boy's death, then he would be given his head. If he was told to spare him, then he wouldn't touch the genin, as was what the commander of God's army was expected to do. During his thoughts, Kakashi came up to stand next to him as they watched the genin practice the tree walking exercise. Oddly enough, it was Sakura who completed the task first. The pink-haired girl had exceptional chakra control, and was able to complete the task right away. Sai had pretended to struggle for a little while, which was just insulting to the blonde. He knew that if he was a Root member, then he would most definitely know how to cling to surfaces using his chakra. His act didn't fool him, or Kakashi. "So you noticed too?" Kakashi asked, already knowing the answer. If he could tell on the first day, then he didn't doubt that his Kohai knew the very second he stepped through the door of Tazuna's home. "Yeah," Naruto said softly, watching Sasuke have trouble with the exercise. He could tell that the boy was annoyed that he looked incompetent in front of such a powerful figure like the bringer of hope, which made it all the more difficult for him since his concentration was split. "And your decision?" Kakashi asked. "I want to wait and see something for myself," he admitted, never taking his eyes off Sasuke. "After that, I'll ask Hokage what should be done." Kakashi nodded. He wasn't sure what was worth discovering about the boy, him having no emotions or will of his own at all, but if that's what his brother wanted, then he would give it to him. A few minutes later, and Kakashi decided to go back to the house with Sakura and Sai since they had the tree walking exercise down already. Sakura wanted to stay, but Kakashi made it clear that she didn't have a choice. His explanation was that they needed to take Tazuna to the bridge and watch over him, but there was another reason why he wanted them both to leave. This was the perfect time for Naruto to talk to Sasuke, and Sai couldn't really report anything to Danzo except that they were alone together for a while, which was bound to happen eventually since he was attached to Team 7 now. Naruto smiled and nodded to his Aniki for giving him his first time alone with the Uchiha. The blonde approached the raven-haired boy who was panting a little and just staring up at the large tree in front of him, trying to figure out the secret of sticking to it. "Can I give you a few pointers?" Naruto asked. Sasuke turned his head to the blonde and huffed. "I don't need your help." He stood. "I'm an Uchiha, I can do this on my own." He took the kunai in his hand that he used as a marker and ran at the tree. It was painfully obvious that he was using the wrong amount of chakra. He was probably doing so because he had no desire to launch himself off the tree and land on his head like he did the first time he used too much. The last Uchiha didn't even get halfway up the tree before he slashed at it and made his way down rather skillfully. "I wasn't implying that you couldn't." Naruto smirked. "I just thought you were mature enough to take the advice of a fellow Konohanin. I guess I was wrong." He began to leave, but was stopped by the genin. "Wait," Sasuke sighed. He shook his head. "I'm sorry. I'm just frustrated because both of my teammates got this within 20 minutes, and I can't even stick to the tree for a few seconds." Naruto smiled. It was taking a lot for the Uchiha to admit this, and it showed him that the boy wasn't a complete stuck-up like so many people said he was. "Can I still," he looked to his left, not wanting to make eye contact with the blonde, "get those pointers?" He finished rather quietly, like what he was asking for was something to be ashamed of. "Of course," Naruto said cheerily, a huge grin on his face. "It's not as difficult as it seems," he continued as he got closer to the genin. "I can show you a little trick Senpai taught me." Now standing in front of the Uchiha, Naruto couldn't help but smile. He looked like Itachi, and it reminded him of his first human friend. He wondered what Itachi was doing right now. He really hoped that he was okay, because he couldn't wait to see him again. He hoped that when they next met, Sasuke could be there with him, on their side instead of in the smothering darkness of hatred and revenge. If he wanted that to happen, then there was much work to be done. Gato was very, very nervous. The short, stout man had thought he was untouchable with his growing monopoly of the shipping industry. His large arrogance was what led him to believe that, since he was such a rich man, said to be the richest in the world, then not even the prestigious Konohagakure no Sato would dare touch him. The message the bringer of fucking hope sent him yesterday was proof enough that no one was out of their reach. It didn't matter how big the target, if God wanted someone's soul, he'd have it, and Gato was sweating profusely because he now knew it. He had no doubt in his mind that God's shadow would, and very much could, kill him. For God's sake, the boy was a Kage slayer, responsible for the death of the fourth Mizukage. One was enough to earn the title Kage slayer, since even one of them would have been extremely difficult to kill. So now here Gato was, constantly jumping whenever there was a sudden noise around him. Even though it was never the Kamikage, Gato still jumped and searched for what made the noise. He was paranoid, extremely so, and terrified out of his mind. What did he have to go and piss off a god for? He was an idiot for rerouting the raw materials shipment for Konoha to himself and Nami. He just wanted his men to be able to make high-quality weapons, is all. Most of his thugs were walking around with dull knives and cracked swords. They really needed better materials. That's when his arrogance got the best of him. He had stolen from heaven, and now an angel of death was going to reap his soul. He was a fool to openly flaunt his trespasses on Konoha, and he understood now why they were the greatest village in the elemental nations. There was only a sliver of hope left for the shipping tycoon. After he had spoken to Zabuza, and that brat Haku who almost broke his arm, he had explained their predicament, and was pleased to hear the man's plan. Hopefully, 2 previous 7 swordsmen and this mystery partner would be enough for Gato to keep his life. Hopefully. After only an hour of practice, Sasuke was able to perfect the tree walking exercise. It was strange for the Uchiha to take advice from, well, anyone, but especially from someone as young as Naruto. He realized that his pride was only hindering him, but he just couldn't help himself. So when he was still in the forest with the blonde, he didn't really understand why he was so eager to cooperate and listen to him. Yes, he was known worldwide as one of the most powerful shinobi alive at the moment, but Sasuke didn't think that his willingness to learn from the bringer of hope was because of his reputation. After an hour of the tree-walking exercise, Naruto had offered to teach the raven-haired boy how to walk on water. Apparently, it not only applied in battle, but also improved one's chakra control. Sasuke already had decent control, but he shared Naruto's enthusiasm in improving himself. With the blonde there, it didn't take long for him to complete it. Only a few hours and Sasuke had learned more from the new Jonin than he had from his sensei in an entire month. If he wasn't so prideful, he'd ask if they could train all the time together. It's getting late, Naruto said, standing from his prone position. The Konoha decided to take a break, and it had already gotten dark. We should get back before we miss dinner. There was a sad look in his eyes. I don't want to give Tsunami-san any more reason to dislike me. Sasuke didn't know what he did to upset the woman, but he definitely knew that she looked at him differently after they came back from shopping the day prior. The Uchiha wasn't very good with sympathy, so he just replied with, HN. You know, Naruto started as the two began to walk back to Tazuna's home. If you'd like, we can train together even after I'm attached to another team. He couldn't see it, but he could feel the Uchiha's eyes widen. Sasuke quickly composed himself. Sure, he said like it wasn't a big deal. Internally he was shocked. It was like the blonde knew what he wanted. Cool, Naruto said nonchalantly. If the genin wanted to act like it was no big deal, then so would he. He knew how the Uchiha thought, and the fact that he was able to get this much out of him was a miracle. The boy was prideful, and he wanted nothing more than to acquire power so that he could have his revenge. It angered Naruto, more than anything, that the genin's anger was misdirected. He was upset with the wrong person. His anger, his hate, it was all towards Itachi. Naruto couldn't wait until he was ready to learn the truth. When that time came, Danzo's days would be limited. The rest of the small walk back to the house was done in a peaceful silence. It didn't take long for the two to walk through the door of Tazuna's home, and when they did, they were greeted by an excited Sakura. You're back, she squealed happily. Dinner's almost ready. Naruto was amused with the girl's conviction. She actually loved Sasuke. Unlike Ino, Sakura, deep down, cared for the boy on a more emotional level. Whereas Ino liked him for his coolness, Sakura just wanted the Uchiha to accept her, his popularity only being a small reason why she was attracted to him. Yes, she was definitely a fangirl, but Naruto could look underneath the underneath, and below all of that schoolgirl nonsense, there was someone who actually cared for Sasuke. Great, Naruto decided to answer since Sasuke just walked past the pink-haired girl and took a seat. He was going to change that attitude of his one way or another. Ignoring a teammate, no matter how obsessive he or she may be, was not the Konoha way. Sakura's intentions were good, and Sasuke needed to look past the academy girl and try better to accept the budding kunoichi. Of course, he'd definitely need to have a serious chat with the girl as well, because her fangirl behavior was just pushing her crush away. She didn't understand that Sasuke was all about power, so if she ever wanted the boy of her dreams to give her the recognition she craved, she needed to grow stronger as both a kunoichi and a woman. How was the training, Naruto-san? Did Sasuke-kun complete the exercise? Sakura asked excitedly. Yup. Sasuke-san was able to complete the tree-walking exercise. He gave a proud smile, and then I taught him how to do the same thing, but on water. The blonde found the pink-haired girl's reaction funny. First, she was happy. Then, when he smiled at her, her cheeks turned a few shades redder. Naruto kind of had that effect on people. After he mentioned that he taught the Uchiha how to walk on water, she was shocked. Why, you taught him how to walk on water? She asked disbelievingly. Naruto smirked, nodding his head. Yeah. It's a lot like clinging to trees, just a little more useful. She was still in shock. Apparently the girl had never seen or heard of someone walking on water before. It's a common practice, Sakura-san. All shinobi learn it during their genin days. He gave Sai a look that said, I know what you are, and Sai should be learning it pretty soon. I just taught it to Sasuke because we had nothing better to do. Sakura just nodded her head, still a little in wonder that shinobi walking on water was a normal thing. Naruto guessed that the young kunoichi wasn't going to reply, so he took a seat next to Kakashi, who had just entered the room, his usual smut in hand. Ah, you're back. How did the training session go? The lazy pervert asked, his eyes never leaving his book. Naruto smiled. Genin Uchiha Sasuke can now climb trees without the use of his hands and walk on water. He reported in a mock professional manner. Kakashi's one visible eye finally graced Naruto with its gaze. You taught him the water walking exercise as well? The blonde nodded. I appreciate the assistance, Kohai. You should help me train my cute little genin more often. Naruto smirked. His senpai was giving him even more opportunities to train Sasuke. You're very welcome, senpai. I would be honored to assist you with your genin in any way possible, he replied. A few minutes of idle chit-chat later and dinner was ready. It smelled really good, and Naruto was starving. Tsunami's cooking was amazing, almost as good as Hayate's. The Uzumaki had gotten a lot closer to the Tokubetsu Jonin in the month he had lived with him, and he began to think that his cooking was too good for him to ever move out. And when they all ate together, he felt like he actually belonged somewhere. It was hard, protecting something so precious to you when the very thing you care for the most despised your very existence. Naruto loved Konoha, with every fiber in his body, but it still hurt, even to this day, when he felt the minds and hearts of the villagers and all that was there was hate and loathing for him. Tsunami had just sat down, after serving everyone their plates, when Naruto felt depression and anger behind him. When he turned to see Inari, he sighed. You should just give up, the boy whispered. It wasn't soft enough to be unheard, but it wasn't loud enough to make a big impression. Still, Sasuke replied. What was that? He asked offhandedly. I said you should all just give up. There's no way you can stop Gato. He'll just kill you all, the boy snarled louder than before. He then turned to Naruto. You! He cried, pointing at the blonde. You're the famous bringer of hope, and even you haven't done anything to stop him. Your name's a lie. You can't bring hope here because hope doesn't exist anymore. He lowered his head. Gato took that away, too. Inari. Tsunami shouted. Don't speak like that. She didn't want her son to have such a dark view on the world, but Naruto could tell that she was worried that he might hurt her son. He didn't show it, but that actually hurt him more than he would like to admit. You speak as if you've seen the ugly truths of the world. Naruto began as he stood. You speak as if you're not a young, naive, ignorant child. He was now standing in front of the boy. You know nothing of how I earned my titles. I've laughed in the face of Hokage, and then I sent him to hell. He put his hand on Inari's head, and decided to ignore Tsunami's fearful emotions. I've freed a country 5 times bigger than Nami no Kuni. Naruto's eyes changed from blue to gold. I am the right hand of God, Inari. He then took in a deep breath. Hope is never out of my reach. Now glimpse, boy. He whispered. I'll let you have a glance of heaven. The whole room lit up in a bright gold light. Everyone inside shielding their eyes formed the majestic shine. By this point Tsunami was in tears with how worried she was for her baby. When the light faded, Tsunami, Tazuna, Sasuke and Sakura gasped at what they saw. On his knees, with tears running down his face, Inari stared at Naruto with bright, molten gold eyes. Not just his pupils, they were nowhere in sight, but his entire sockets were alight with the mighty color. Inari? Tsunami shouted, rushing over to her child. She took him by the shoulders and panicked when he didn't see her and just kept staring at the blonde shinobi. What did you do to my son? She asked in a shaky voice. Naruto could feel the other thing the black-haired woman wanted to scream. Get away from us. Naruto's look made Kakashi's heart ache. I gave it back to him, was all Naruto said before he walked out of the house, never even touching his plate. Gave what back to him? She cried back, but it was too late. Naruto was already gone. When she looked back down at her son, he was looking back at her with something she hadn't seen on his face since her husband was taken from them, a smile. Kakashi sighed as he stood. He walked towards the stairs. Hope, the copy-nin answered for his Kohai. Naruto gave Inari back his hope by letting him see the world through his eyes. With that said, Kakashi climbed the stairs, ready to sleep through the rest of the night. He knew his brother all too well. He would want to be alone for tonight. The entire time, Sai ate his meal with a fake smile on his face. He didn't open his eyes, but Naruto knew that someone was approaching him. This person was trying to decide something. This person was trying to decide whether or not to assassinate him. It was rather amusing if he were honest. This person thought they could actually take his life if they wanted to. It was a funny joke. The fact that the person was considering letting him live was the only reason he hadn't slit their throat. It was interesting, and Naruto wanted to see where this would go if he let the person decide for themselves. A few moments later, and he could hear a female-like voice, which was strange since he could tell that the person was very much a male, and that he was the only person around. You shouldn't sleep out here, Shinobi-san. He could feel a hand tap his shoulder. You'll catch a cold. Naruto slowly opened his eyes. Apparently he decided to spare him. I think I'll be okay. Haku, the feminine-looking boy, answered the unspoken question. Haku. Naruto looked around before he sighed. I'm Naruto. So, what are you doing out here, Haku-san? He asked, getting to his feet. He didn't want to go back to Tazuna's house. He was going to respect Tsunami's wishes, even if she never expressed them. Her mind was clear, she didn't want him around her son anymore, and Naruto really didn't want to feel the way he felt last night again. He usually loved being a monster, embraced it even, but when the people he promised to protect looked at him like one, well, even a monster's heart could ache. Someone very dear to me is injured. Haku pointed to the herbs across the small clearing they were in. I'm looking for medicinal herbs so I can speed up his recovery. Haku gave the blonde a polite, kind smile. Naruto smirked. Ah yes, I heard. Kakashi really got Zabuza good the other day, huh? Haku's shocked face was humorous. The fake Kirinin stood and took out a senbon, getting in a defensive stance. I will return to Zabuza-sama, even if I have to kill you, he stated. Naruto just chuckled. If I wanted you dead, Haku-san, you would already be dead. The blonde stretched. Now, which herbs were you looking for? He asked, taking his time to walk over to where Haku had pointed. Why you? Haku was very, very confused. You want to help heal an enemy shinobi? This had to be some kind of joke, or a way to get his guard down, right? Yeah. Naruto nodded. You see, I kind of need your assistance with something, so I thought, while you do what I need, I could have some fun as well. His genuine smile confused the last Yuki even more. Fun? He asked, now very interested in what the boy had to say. Yes, fun, he replied, bending down to pick the herbs he knew to be medicinal. You see, I've been asleep for quite a while now, and I'm terribly curious about it. Curious about what? Haku asked. This Konoha made no sense at all. Firstly, he had been fast asleep, ignorant to the possibilities of an enemy nin attack in a nation without shinobi. Secondly, he somehow knew that he was working with a well-known, A-ranked missing nin and didn't try to attack. Thirdly, he didn't try to stop him from collecting herbs, but even offered to help. And lastly, he wanted to have fun? What the hell was wrong with this kid? I want to know which is superior. Naruto stood, handing the boy the herbs he picked out, almost losing his composure when the fake hunter nin almost flinched. As he walked off further into the forest, he whispered his last words, but Haku heard them clearly, like nature itself went silent so his words could travel to his ears. A demon, or a monster? After an unfruitful training session, Naruto decided to confront the little birdie following him. He gave the boy props for his skills in stealth, for a genin at least. You can come out now, Sasuke, he said, not even looking towards the tree the Uchiha was in. The blonde was sitting on the shoreline, watching the waves, which reminded him of a certain auburn-haired woman. The forest behind him, more specifically the rather large tree, was where the Konoha genin stood, trying his best to be inconspicuous. How long did you know? Sasuke asked, trying to act like he wasn't bothered at being discovered so quickly. Naruto smirked, not that the genin could see it. Since you stepped out of Tazuna's home. He could feel the boy's shock. I'm a censor, Sasuke, and a good one at that. He gave a small smile. What's on your mind? A pointless question, since Naruto already knew what he wanted to talk about. Last night, the raven-haired boy paused, not sure if he should ask. What did you do? When he saw Inari's eyes, he didn't know what to think. Then, when Kakashi said that he somehow gave hope back to him by letting him see through his eyes, Sasuke was interested in what he meant. Inari's eyes were back to normal now, but around the pupil there was a faint gold trace. My sensor ability comes from another technique I was born with. He turned to the Uchiha. It's called empathy, and with it I can understand others on a deeper, more personal level. The special thing about my gifts is that there is more than one way to use them. If I can make physical contact, I can push my empathy onto another, and let them see what I see when I look at the world. So, Sasuke began, since Inari saw through your eyes, he somehow obtained hope? I don't understand. How can someone see hope? Isn't it just a four-letter word and emotion? Naruto shook his head. I could sit here and explain it to you all day, but I don't think you would understand. He felt the Uchiha's indignant mind. Relax, Sasuke, I know you're an intelligent shinobi, but even Kage-level ninja can't properly contemplate what I'm capable of. He smirked. But if you'd like, he held out his hand, you can try to, with time. Sasuke took a moment to think the offer over. Ever since what he did, all the last loyal Uchiha wanted was to gain the power to avenge his clan, to be powerful enough to end his brother's life. He didn't have time for friends. He didn't have time to train with others, because to Sasuke, everyone was below him. But now, standing in front of him, someone known to be the greatest shinobi in Hai no Kuni wanted to help. He only had one question. Why? He knew what a lot of people thought about him. He was the last Uchiha, not Uchiha Sasuke. He loved his clan, he wanted the world to know of their greatness, but he wanted to be seen as an individual sometimes. It's simple, really. Naruto began. When I was in the ANBU, I knew your brother. He felt Sasuke freeze. He was my first real friend in the village. His small smile morphed into something more sinister. You weren't the only one who lost a brother, a family that night. He steeled his features. With your help, Sasuke, I want to kill, no, I want to annihilate the person responsible, the person who took something very dear to us both. Naruto decided to ease the boy's mind. You're not just another Uchiha, there's greatness in your future. The drawback, though, is that there are two very different paths that lie before you. Without my assistance, it is very possible that you will fall into the dark abyss of hatred, forever falling in a never-ending pit of suffering. But with my help, with me there to guide you, to teach you, I guarantee you will be remembered long after your death. The name Uchiha Sasuke will be etched into history forever, not as a brave and courageous hero, but as one of the greatest monsters to have ever served heaven. His hand was still offered to the genin. So, what's it going to be? Will you let your heart ache, and struggle to gain the power you seek? Or will you join me in my crusade as one of God's monsters, his demon slayer, and his right hand? It was strange. Sasuke was never one to follow. He was never one to listen to orders to serve. But at that moment, after hearing the most sincere thing anyone had ever told him, he felt like he could follow. He felt like he could, like he would, do as this blonde shinobi said. He shook the Uzumaki's hand. He would become a monster. And Naruto could feel his conviction. He was one step closer to being ready, and Danzo was one step closer to hell. He was almost insulted when he felt the fear and panic of Tsunami. Apparently Gato wanted hostages, and nothing screamed hostage like a helpless woman or a child. It disgusted Naruto that someone would take advantage of the innocent like this. This was why he loved taking the life of scum. They tainted the world, and needed to be cleansed. He was insulted because all the cowardly man sent was two very weak thugs, something a genin could handle easily. The fools still underestimated Konoha. That alone was enough for the bringer of hope to want his head. For a civilian woman, however, they were probably intimidating and scary. Tsunami couldn't fight back for fear of her son getting involved. That woman was something else, really. She thought of her son first, before all else, even in the face of imminent death. She was a good person, and a great mother. For a fraction of a second, Naruto was jealous of Inari. Then, after he remembered who his mother was and what she had done for him, he decided that he was perfectly fine with his own mother, even if she was dead. Uzumaki Kushina was the greatest mother a boy could have. She was beautiful, smart, talented, and willing to die for her family. Naruto wouldn't trade her for the world. Just now exiting the house, Gato's men were dragging a crying Tsunami off. The reason he wasn't down there this moment was simple. He wanted to see if her son would do anything. He was radiating bravery and courage, the likes of which only someone who was willing to die could. At that moment, the ignorant child became a man, a warrior in the eyes of the Kamikage. Tsunami, Tazuna, all of Wave had just earned his respect. They had just earned their freedom, and all because of the courage of one boy. As he suspected, Inari ran out of the house, his hands balled into fists, a scared but brave expression etched into his face. He was going to save his mother or die trying, and that's all Naruto needed to see. He had no doubt that the boy would surely die, but it was the fact that he would do just that for the safety of his loved ones. Inari was, now, the kind of person the blonde respected above all others. He was someone who would stand against impossible odds for the sake of others. Someone who wasn't arrogant enough to think they could win, but brave enough not to care about things like surviving. Someone who would dance with death and smile, knowing that all that could be done was someone like him. As Inari reached the two thugs, who had taken their weapons out to cut down the child, the men fell, their lifeless corpses now adorning two very shinobi-like kunai that weren't there a second ago. Inari was shocked all but 2 seconds before the same smile he had the other night crept back onto his face. He didn't do or say anything for a few moments, but after he took in a deep breath, he shouted to the heavens. "Thank you, Naruto and I." After Tsunami recovered from the shock of a failed abduction attempt, she couldn't help but cry again. This time, however, it was not tears of fear or sorrow, these were tears of joy. Her baby, her beloved son, hadn't smiled like that since Kaiza was murdered. She smiled sadly and whispered, "Thank you, Naruto-san." Her smile became a bright one. "I'm not afraid anymore." She sighed and shook her head. I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can, thank you. Thank you so very, very much. The Uzumaki could hear her. He could feel her. He was accepted, and he once again felt invincible. It was time to have some fun now. On the way to the bridge, Naruto felt him. He hadn't felt him in years, but he could never forget that chakra signature. Itachi, he whispered under his breath. What was he doing here? And who was he traveling with? His companion's chakra felt fishy, for lack of a better term. And it was larger than the reserves of most Kage. Whoever he was, this man was dangerous, and he was traveling with Itachi, another extremely dangerous shinobi. That meant he was a member of the organization Itachi joined that Jiraiya was telling him about, the one he wasn't allowed to confront yet for some reason. Itachi may still be a loyal Konohanin and like a brother to Naruto, but he needed to keep his cover. He wouldn't like it, but right now, Itachi was the enemy, along with his companion. And they were headed towards Kakashi-senpai and Sasuke. There was no doubt in his mind that Itachi would kill Kakashi if it was necessary to keep his cover intact. First friend or not, Kakashi would not be taken from him too, he wouldn't allow it. He needed to have a chat with, what was it, the Akatsuki? Yeah, it was time to send the Akatsuki a message. It took him a few minutes to cut the two ninja off, and Naruto now knew who the fishy, literally, man was. So, the Uzumaki's voice called out to the two black-cloaked men. Gato hired two S-rank missing nin to, what, kill me? He asked in an amused voice. TSK, TSK. He shook his pointer finger along with his head. The two of you are way out of your league here. The aforementioned missing nin turned to the blonde. Now I'm kind of busy, so if you apologize for wasting my time, I'll let you live. For now. He crossed his arms to wait for their response. Kisame, Itachi started with his calm and collected facade. Your contact wanted us to confront Konoha's Kamikage? The shark-faced man turned to his partner. He never gave me a name. All he said was that he needed our organization to eliminate someone for him. He promised a hefty price as well. Itachi's eyes never left Naruto's. He had his Sharingan active, like usual, and was ready to activate the Mangekyo if needed. They weren't enemies, not really, but Naruto would not let them pass without something close to an all-out war between them. The blonde was never one to just let possible threats walk by, and Itachi was sure that Naruto knew of his cover, so he wouldn't want that blown either. Itachi deduced all of this in a second, just by looking into his friend's eyes. Nonetheless, the Uchiha began, we can no longer help your contact for more than one reason. When Kisame frowned and turned his gaze to the blonde, Itachi went through ANBU code faster than most could see. What of Sasuke? And I need Kisame alive, or our leader might retaliate. Naruto read it loud and clear. And what are those reasons, Itachi-san? Kisame asked. The one thing he liked about being teamed with the Uchiha was that he was quiet, polite, and skilled, more so than himself. He was the perfect partner, so he showed the youngest member of their team the respect he deserved. Leader Sama has stated that the Jinchuriki are off limits. Have you already forgotten? He pointed at Naruto. And more importantly, a fight with this guy would result in our deaths. We are not ready to fight an opponent of his caliber yet. Naruto chuckled. He wasn't bullshitting either, Itachi was telling the gods honest truth. He doesn't look like much to me, Kisame said with a smirk. And Samahada is begging to feast on his chakra. Ah yes! Naruto suddenly shouted, his right hand meeting his left palm. Hashigaki Kisame, former member of the Seven Swordsmen of Kirigakure. He chuckled darkly. You're called the tailless-tailed beast. Such an absurd title, don't you think? The Kiri missing nin's annoyed mind made Naruto want to chuckle again. No, I don't think it's absurd. He grabbed the hilt of the shark skin. So, boy, would you like to see why I was given that title? Kisame asked cockily. Unless you're scared, I mean, there are two of us and you're all alone. Here we go. Itachi thought. He knew that was not something that should have been said. Before Naruto could speak, Kisame flared his chakra, the enormity of it being felt by everything nearby. It was huge, and very powerful, there was no doubt about it. It was a presence worth noting. The pressure of his chakra was a visible thing, pushing down on the environment in a display of power that would surely be terrifying. For a mortal. I'm never alone, Naruto whispered. With his Sharingan, Itachi was able to catch a pair of eyes morph from blue to gold, and circular pupils became slitted ones. He was able to catch something he hadn't seen in 5 years. Naruto's monstrous smirk, his senpai was awake. God help them all. Zabuza was in a death match with Itachi Kakashi when he felt the huge chakra signature of arguably the most powerful man who ever joined the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. It caused everyone on the bridge to pause for a second, the powerful wave of chakra washing over them, demanding recognition. He smirked. With Kisame and his partner here, he could fight Kakashi one-on-one without being interrupted. Everything was going as planned. Haku was fighting the 2 male genin, and the little female one was defending his target. Once he was done with the Kopinin, he could kill the pink-haired weakling and then the bridge builder. Gato would pay them and then they could leave this poor, dirty country. Everything was going his way, until something not human responded to Kisame's powerful chakra. It was like Kisame's might was an infant, the cries of a newborn. What responded could only be described as godlike. It stopped the hearts of everyone on the bridge. It brought them all to their knees, taking their breath away. It actually pushed down on them, commanding them to submit to its will. Like it was omnipresent, like the entire world could feel it. It was the most terrifying thing any of them had ever felt. The dome of ice Haku had trapped Sasuke and Sai and shattered from the pressure, the density of whatever it was. Tazuna and Sakura were having an incredibly difficult time staying conscious, the enormity of whatever was bearing down on them almost too much for them to handle. Sasuke was so lost in it that he didn't notice his vision enhance, or how his eyes changed from onyx to crimson. Sai had thought his emotions were erased, that he couldn't feel anything anymore. Oh, how very wrong he was. Right now, with it pushing down on him, he felt fear. He was afraid. Had God decided to walk among them? Because this absolutely could not originate from a human being, this was out of the realm of mortals. This power, this otherworldly chakra was something so far from human that no one could comprehend it. It was so strong, so scary, but at the same time, it was beautiful. It was so warm, so bright, like the sun. It was almost too hard to explain. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it could be explained in one word. Impossible. This feeling lasted for no longer than 5 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. When it stopped, everyone took in a much-needed breath, even the Jonin. They were all out of breath, and the young shinobi was shaking. Hell, Zabuza had to consciously keep himself from shaking. Kakashi wasn't shaking because he knew exactly where that chakra had originated from. What the hell was that? Zabuza asked no one in particular. Kakashi let out a long breath. That, Zabuza, was the end of our fight. Zabuza narrowed his eyes. I'm no longer your opponent. The moment he finished his sentence, Naruto, acting like nothing was wrong in the world, flickered into existence next to his brother figure. Yo! The blonde gave Zabuza a smile and the peace sign. Zabuza, I'd like you to meet Uzumaki Naruto, the bringer of hope, Kakashi announced. Zabuza's eyes widened. What about? Naruto cut him off. Kisame? He thought he could challenge me in a game of chakra. He smirked. You might have felt it. He stretched and cracked his back. I think you can tell who won. He looked at Kakashi. Alright, I got it from here, senpai. You should see how the others are doing. Kakashi nodded. Right. Let's see how my cute genin are doing after your little stunt. He shook his head in exasperation. Was that really necessary? Naruto gave a smile and shrugged. I don't like holding back, senpai. Kakashi sighed and walked off towards Sasuke and Sai, muttering something about all-powerful teenagers. Alright, now, we can settle this in 2 very different ways, Zabuza. He held up one finger. The first way, we simply fight. And you die, with your accomplice. I'd rather not do that though, so I came up with option 2, my personal favorite. He held up 2 fingers. You and I play a game. The loser has to do whatever the winner wants. This way, either side needs to lose a life. What do you think? Zabuza just stared at the blonde in front of him for a good minute, trying to decide if the boy was serious. After what he felt, after what everyone felt, he knew the kid could kill both him and Haku with ease. So why was he offering an option where they could survive? It was worth looking into. What kind of game? He asked. He wasn't a big fan of playing, but it couldn't hurt to ask, he hoped. Naruto smiled. Well, the way I see it, you're a Suiten user, right? Zabuza nodded. Then the game's simple. Whoever can create the greatest Suiten jutsu wins. Oh, and Suiten is not my primary affinity, but I won't lie to you, I'm pretty good at it. The blonde gave him a questioning look. So, does that sound like something you'd like to do? The missing nin smirked under his wrappings. Sure, why not? He responded. Naruto wanted to laugh. Zabuza thought he had the win in the bag. Again, someone else would learn to never underestimate him. Okay then, Naruto started. You can go first. Bring out your most powerful Suiten jutsu. Just don't attack anyone with it. Zabuza nodded, and began to run through a lot of hand seals. When he was finished, he shouted the name of his B-rank jutsu. Suiten, Suryudan no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Dragon Bullet Technique. Water from below shot up and formed into a giant, powerful dragon. Naruto almost huffed. He was almost insulted again. A B-rank ninjutsu, that's all Zabuza was going to use against someone like him? He just shook his head and sighed. Whatever. He took in a deep breath. I've never tried to add water to this, but I think I can pull it off. Sasuke, Sai, Sakura, Tazuna, and Kakashi all watched closely for what the blonde was going to do. And Sasuke was still paying so much attention to Naruto that he hadn't yet realized what he had unlocked, what Naruto had given him. Zabuza noticed the Kamikaze's eyes change from blue to gold, and felt his chakra skyrocket. Senpo, Suiten, the water underneath the bridge shot up in a giant pillar, reaching into the sky past what the eye could see. Tengaku Kurido, Sage Art, Water Release, Heaven's Creed. A blast of golden light could be seen within the pillar of water, and with the light, a warrior, made completely of water, that was 5 times larger than an average-sized man was created. The gold light was now seen in its head, constantly spinning. Huge, angel-like wings, made of water as well, adorned its back, keeping it in the sky above the blonde. The control to shape and keep the form of the warrior was beyond anything Zabuza had ever heard of. It was so detailed, so fierce-looking. It was incredible, but how useful was it? Naruto felt the question on Zabuza's mind. I'm not done yet, Zabuza, he whispered, but the man heard what he said. A second golden blast was seen from the pillar, and a second angel-looking warrior made completely out of water was created. One was incredible, but 2 was impossible. There was no way the blonde could split his concentration in half like that. Just one would require a Kage-level shinobi to create. The boy's smirk unnerved the demon. A third blast, a third water-made warrior. A fourth, a fifth, again and again golden blasts rang out on the bridge, and not just one at a time, but multiple at once. When Zabuza was sure that he was finished, there had to be 100 warriors. No, these were not simple creations of water. Zabuza knew what these were before the blonde spoke his next words. They're sentient, you know, he said offhandedly while looking at his creations. Every last one of them is able to think for themselves, and they each follow my will. The monster looked the demon in the eyes. You should feel grateful, Naruto began. You're the first person to witness the army of heaven and survive. Zabuza let his jutsu go, the water raining harmlessly down on everyone on the bridge. All right, Zabuza whispered. You win. What is it you want? There was no point in arguing, no point of trying to fight his way out of his current situation. Not with an army of water-made angels staring at him like the demon he was. I want you and Haku to promise me a few things. The missing nin was confused. The first thing, I want you to leave Nami no Kuni, and forget about Gato and his job for you. Zabuza hated giving up on a job, but he didn't really have a choice right now. The second thing, I want you and Haku to go back to Mizu no Kuni. The demon was going to protest before Naruto stopped him. You probably know that the civil war is over already, and that Terumi Mei is the Lady Fifth Mizukage. I helped her end the war, Zabuza. She, and most of the resistance, understand why you tried to pull off a coup. They'll accept you back, you have my word. Naruto knew that Zabuza thought that even with Yagura dead, Kiri would probably never welcome him back, but that wasn't the case. Naruto knew that Mei would appreciate having a member of the Seven Swordsmen in her ranks again, and with the Bringer of Hope's recommendation, both he and Haku would have a place in Kirigakure. Why do you care if we go back to Miza anyway? He asked, very confused why a Konoha nin would care what happened to a Kiri nin. The Mizukage. Naruto started. She's a friend. I want you to give me your word that you'll protect her for me. I can't be there for her like I want to, so I want you to watch over her in my place. I want you to be her right hand, someone she can trust with anything. Zabuza was still confused, but accepted nonetheless. And the last and most important thing, I want you to treat Haku the way he deserves to be treated, the way you really feel about him. Again, Naruto stopped him from interrupting. I have the ability of empathy, Zabuza. It's too late, I already see you. He's like a son to you, and if you don't start treating him like one, you're going to lose him. All he wants in the whole world is to be important to you. He just wants your dreams to come true. To be honest, you don't deserve that boy, but I'm not going to take you away from him. He looked at the boy he was talking about. That would be too cruel. You're his everything, his reason for living. He turned to look back at Zabuza. Promise me that you won't treat him like he's nothing but a tool. Promise me that you'll treat him the way you really feel about him. You owe him that much. Zabuza was staring at the ground, really listening to the Kamikage. He knew he loved Haku like his own son, it was just difficult for him to admit it. He didn't think he could be a good father, but the blonde was right. Haku deserved for him to at least try. He raised his head, a look of determination on his face. Yes. That one word and that one look was all Naruto needed for him to know that Zabuza would do what he asked. In the man's mind, Naruto had given him a second chance to start over, to live a life with someone he could call family. Good. You're free to go then. Take your son and go home, Naruto said with a smile. Zabuza nodded and headed over towards Haku. As the two walked away, Naruto couldn't hear what was said, but the feeling of the absolutely happiest heart was clear as day. Hopefully, Haku could learn how to be a person, a son and not just a tool. The blonde sighed. Here he was acting like the hero again. Kakashi walked up to him, Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai close behind. It was the Uchiha who first spoke. What the hell was that feeling before you showed up? He paused. Was that you? Naruto just smirked, but looked at Kakashi when he spoke. Yeah, sorry about that. I kind of ran into a couple of red clouds on the way over. The thing about red clouds though, sometimes you run into ones that you know. He knew that Kakashi understood. And sometimes you run into ones who think that you're better. The three genin plus Tazuna were utterly confused. Naruto sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Never mind, let's just say, he paused for a second, trying to figure out a way to best describe what they felt without telling them the whole truth. That's when it hit him. It was hope, Sasuke. That's what I showed Inari the other night. All of you just got the more direct approach, because instead of seeing it, you felt it. Sakura, Sai, and Tazuna were still confused, but Sasuke somewhat understood. Hope was not just a four-letter word, it wasn't just an emotion. It was a promise. A promise that only people like Naruto could give, a promise that the monster would always be there to protect you. Sasuke wanted to be a monster more than ever now. Great. Naruto smirked. I was hoping he'd come to me. Now even Kakashi was confused, until he turned around and saw a rather short man who was on the chubby side. He was dressed in an all-black suit, had black glasses on, and carried a black cane. So, Gato announced himself. Looks like you're the only ones left. An army of thugs stood behind him, trying to act tough in the face of shinobi. It's just too bad they didn't look up. Before Naruto could command anything, he felt it. It was beautiful. It was the reason he didn't mind being the monster in the end. He was no hero, but the small boy leading the entire island to Gato and his men, he was a hero. They were young and old alike, all of them sick of Gato's treachery. United under one boy's courage, one boy's bravery, Nami no Kuni would fight back. The kamikage was never needed. There was already a hero in Wave, he was just slumbering. His name is Inari, and he was awake now. Stop where you are! Inari shouted towards Gato and his men. Naruto smirked. This Inari, this brave kid was going places. If he was a shinobi, Naruto could already see the good he would have done. This island is our home. The citizens wore makeshift armor out of house appliances, and their weapons were no different. They weren't skilled fighters, but they were many in number. Naruto was a little amused that no one had looked up yet. One step further. Inari. Tazuna whispered to himself. All of you. He whispered again, scanning the crowd. Everyone was there. His grandson had rallied the entire island. He couldn't help but turn his gaze onto the blonde standing in front of him. He may be a drunk, but he was no idiot. Uzumaki Naruto had brought hope to his home. He really was the bringer of hope. You'll die where you stand. He finished, his eyes lit with a fire Naruto knew all too well. There was a silence on the bridge, an almost palpable one, the kind that stung the ears. It was interrupted by a disgusting noise. Gato laughed. You! Whatever the man was about to say was cut short. Don't laugh at them, Naruto said softly, but somehow, it was heard throughout the bridge, like even the heavens went silent. What was that? He asked cockily. Naruto chuckled. Gato had thought the bringer of hope was done away with. He had no idea that he was in the presence of a cage slayer. I said the Uzumaki's eyes were still a molten gold, and they only had Gato in their sights. Do not laugh. A cold, terrifying shiver ran across the backs of all present. Gato gulped. He didn't know why, but he gulped at the blonde kid's words. Naruto took in a deep breath. People of Nami no Kuni! He shouted, getting the attention of everyone. When I first arrived in this country, all I sensed was fear and depression, like all hope was lost. A low growl came from his throat when he felt Gato's smug mind. This country has no shinobi force, no one to count on if it was in need. Gato smirked. That is no longer the case. Gato's smirk disappeared. For those of you who don't know, he looked Gato in the eye. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. And I am Konoha's kamikage. Many gasps were heard across the bridge, and Gato almost pissed his pants. As second in command of Konoha, I declare Nami no Kuni an official ally of Konohagakure no Sato. Tazuna widened his eyes, just staring at the boy. And Naruto-san, we don't have anything to offer your. The bridge builder was stopped. The price for this treaty is simple enough. Open trade with our country, and a 2% discount for our people. Tazuna was going to protest that there was already going to be open trade, and that 2% wasn't really any better than whole price, but stopped when Naruto gave him a look that said I know. Why you can't do that? Gato screamed. Just because your nation is big doesn't give you the right to stick your noses in where it doesn't belong. He pointed at the blonde. You can't just do what you want. This is my country. Naruto turned to the businessman, giving him a look that thoroughly scared him. Shut up, he said, turning back to the Wave citizens. I was told that the fisherman Kaiser was your hero. Inari held his head up high, respecting the memory of his best friend and stepfather. I can feel the minds of some of you here. He let his eyes roam the crowd. I am no hero. He brought his gaze to Inari. The real hero is standing at the head of your people. All eyes found Inari. A child, a civilian, a bridge builder's grandson, Naruto started. This boy, no, this man, united a hopeless people. He's no shinobi, he has but one power. He smiled. Courage. Naruto did something he only ever did for his god. Uzumaki Naruto closed his eyes and gave Inari a deep bow. You're my hero, Inari. He stood back up, staring at the boy. You and I are the same. He walked over to the boy, noticing how he was trying to hold his tears back. When he reached him, he put his hand over the boy's heart. You're a bringer of hope. Inori didn't close his eyes, or scrunch up his face, but the tears began to fall. And if you don't mind sharing the title, I'd like for you to take it up with me. Inari nodded his head vigorously. Good. He looked at the people of Wave. Citizens of Nami no Kuni, I give you the hero of Wave, Inari, the bringer of hope. The shouts of joy and happiness could be heard throughout the island. Naruto bent down to whisper in Inari's ear. Like father, like son, he whispered what Jiraiya always told him. The tears increased. Now. Naruto turned to Gato. You should all return home. A monster is about to have his way with Gato. He felt the defiance in the crowd. He understood. They needed to see this then. Wait. Gato was terrified. Is this about the materials shipment? He was breathing hard. I'll give it back to you. He started walking backwards, trying to hide behind his hired thugs. Get me out of here! He shouted at them. Kill them! Kill them all! The thugs were scared, but more than that, they were arrogant and uneducated. It was time they learned. Before they could take a step, Naruto began. You defy heaven. You defy God's will. He brought his hand into the air. Now burn in hell. The thugs turned their eyes to the sky, and when they saw the hundreds of, were those angels? All they felt was desperation. It was the end. All of you, he whispered, bringing his hand down, signaling his army of angels to descend upon the wicked. When the water-made angels met the group of thugs, it ended quickly. They were slaughtered, every last one of them were slain without hesitation, all but Gato. He stole from heaven. He ruined a country for his own desires. He would be given what he deserved. He would die like Kaiza. They say an eye for an eye will make the world go blind. Naruto gave a monstrous smile as he walked through the wake of dead bodies towards a shivering Gato. Then it was a good thing that Naruto didn't need sight to see. That's it for part 5. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.